Hey guys, what's going on? Blaine back for another Netflix review, and today I'm going to be talking about Non-Negotiable. Non-Negotiable is a Mexican crime comedy drama that tells the story of Alan Bender, a hostage negotiator for his police unit who's known for being one of the best in the whole country. He finds himself in the most important case of his career when he learns his wife and the president have both been kidnapped. To make matters more complicated, the kidnapper involved in the crime is only willing to talk to Alan and nobody else. This results in the dark history between Alan and the kidnapper slowly being revealed, as he tries his best to diffuse the situation before anyone gets hurt or worse. Throughout the whole time I spent watching this movie, I couldn't stop thinking about how average it was. It is moderately entertaining as far as its premise goes, but everything else from the characters to the rest of the story to the messages are presented so generically, which is unfortunate considering the stakes behind everything. The main character, Alan, is a decent protagonist to get behind for the sake of the story, but that's really all he is. His personality doesn't change a whole lot, and he never experiences any significant kind of growth, which is a shame because there's a lot of potential there for him to build from. He's a career-oriented man who's skilled at his job, but this comes at the expense of not being there for his family as much as he should be. He is sympathetic enough in the sense that one can tell he wants to be there for his family, but also feels compelled to save lives. This juggling act between professional and personal lives is a good idea, but it's just not developed enough. Unfortunately, this isn't helped when his wife Victoria is even less memorable as a character compared to him. I can understand why she would be fed up with Alan's work, and I feel bad for her as far as being kidnapped, but that's pretty much all I can say about her as far as positives go. She just never came across as a relatable character. The entire angle involving her being in trouble with her own work in psychiatry never goes anywhere, and the constant snarky attitude she directs toward Alan made her unappealing, to put it mildly. It's understandable why she'd resent Alan up till the kidnapping, but without more context, it feels confusing. The family aspect of the kidnapping is one half of what makes the story's events so important for Alan, and it's just not where it should be. Everything about Alan and Victoria's dynamic feels rushed and undercooked, so it's hard to get invested in this side of the story. However, there is one exception to this in the form of their daughter Juana. I wish there were more interactions between the parents and their daughter. Juana adds a lot more personality and humanity to the stakes of the story with what little presence she does have in the movie. In the end, however, Alan's personal side of the story is never taken full advantage of. Conversely, his professional side of the story is where things get a lot more interesting, mainly regarding the relationship he builds with the kidnapper. Without getting too much into spoiler territory, I enjoyed seeing the mind games between the two, how things with them become more tense over time, and the history they share with each other. The motive of the kidnapper isn't really original for the kind of story it's telling, as it's mostly just about him trying to put power back into the people, but at least it isn't the typical ransom shtick. You can sort of understand where the villain is coming from with his intentions, and while it doesn't excuse his actions, it does make the dynamic between him and Alan more compelling. As far as the story goes, it's as basic as the characters are. It's an ordinary hostage situation where Alan has to find a way to get the kidnapper to release his victim safely, and that's pretty much it. I don't mind the simple nature of the story, but what makes it such a chore to sit through is how long it takes to get going. Despite how short this movie's runtime is, everything feels like it takes longer to get through than it should. The kidnapping doesn't even occur until about 20 minutes into the movie, and not much else happens after that. It's just a bunch of stalling and negotiating without much in the way of action or mishaps, so while the tension is there, there's rarely if any kind of payoff behind it. I do like all the operational aspects that the police undergo in trying to rescue the president and other hostages. There's a lot of moving parts involved in the hostage situation, and it all looks authentic to how a similar crisis like this might proceed in real life, but it still feels slower than necessary. Something I found weird about how the story was presented was the more comedic elements of the story, which I'm not entirely opposed to. I do think some of the humor in this movie is legitimately funny, like when Alan's daughter causes mischief, or when a police van accidentally hits a parking garage roof in the middle of their route to the hostage situation. The comedy can help in breaking the tension during the right moments, but these moments don't always occur, and half the time the comedy doesn't even make sense in how it's used. There's a lot of tonal shifts involved that make it hard to find out whether a scene is supposed to be funny or not. There's one scene involving a polygraph that confused the hell out of me with how it was supposed to be done. It feels like it's supposed to be serious, but the questions that are asked, the responses from the machine, and the events leading up to it don't really give that impression. There's a lot of moments like this where the tone is just all over the place. This movie would have been better off if it went for a more consistently serious tone, not just because that's mostly what it seems to be going for, but because the setting suits the story it tells. I love how the filmmakers featured a variety of rundown scenery and other crimes prior to the hostage crisis, because it gives the impression of how dirty and grimy Alan's world is on a regular basis. It also ties into this with a message regarding the prevalence of corruption involved in society and how people are forced to take extreme measures to make meaningful change. It has all the ingredients to tell a compelling story with a meaningful message behind it, but it never does anything more than the bare minimum with it. Overall, Non-Negotiable is an average crime flick that gets the job done as far as its central premise goes, but nothing more beyond that. If you like crime dramas and don't mind watching one that frequently switches in tone, you might enjoy checking this out. It has all the parts it needs to make and tell a suspenseful crime story, so it's disappointing that they never add up to anything worthwhile. It is still fun to watch for individual moments, but with how mediocre everything else is around these moments, it's hard to negotiate with oneself to keep watching it. What did you think about this movie? Were you disappointed by it too? Or did you find something more to enjoy in it? Let me know in the comments below. Anyways guys, that's going to wrap up my review of Non-Negotiable. Thanks for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it, and as always stay tuned for the next part, where next time I review the Nigerian historical drama, House of Ga. Bye bye!